Okay. A few minutes late, I think we're ready to go. It's kind of crowded here. Oh well. Okay, so let's dive in. We only have about 40 minutes for this session. My name is Oliver Wolf. I'm one of the product managers here at MasterControl, doing the QEM CAPA product as well as the process product. So we're all segmented by product lines or products in specific areas. Yes, question? You can't hear? Okay, I'll get a little bit closer. So we'll be talking here about tracking and training of quality events. So really what we're talking about is the CAPA system as a whole. Okay, so what are we doing? I'll back up. That was a little bit too fast. Okay, so tracking and training of quality events. So as far as what we're going through, this is possessed. Touch very lightly. So first off, we'll go through what are quality events, what is the significance of quality events in your quality management system. Why would you want to track and train quality events? So really we'll be getting into some of the detail of CAPA and then how everything lines up there. Before I actually get into what MasterControl offers in terms of tools for tracking and training. And there's reporting event cards. We'll get into all of that detail a little bit down the line. Really the main feature we want to talk about is the event analyzer agent. And so we'll spend most of the time down with the tools with that specific tool, as well as some of the new version 11 features around it, because we've done a lot of work in version 11 to enable that. Okay, are you guys hearing okay, or yeah, good? That's better up here, I guess. Okay. All right, this is. Okay, I won't be using this. Okay. Quality events in CAPA. So a quality event is really anything in your system where you are missing some specification, something you've written down, whether it's a spec for your materials, your procedures, your batch records, your device history records. Anytime you're missing the written spec or the procedure, you really have what we term it as a quality event. It could be a quality exception. There might be some other names out there. What do you guys use for that bucket of term for that concept? Issues? Exceptions, anyone? So how about these terms? So these are really the solution packages that we offer as part of our quality event management solution. So we have deviations. Anybody using those? NCMRs, OOS. So I put some other things in there. Supplier corrective action that could be seen as a quality event. Even though it's really a CAPA that's facing more supplier-facing than inward-facing. Complaints, audit observations can be very good quality events in terms of mitigating what you're finding. Any others that you guys are using? Different terminology. Always interesting to know. Yeah?
For audit observations, are they for when outsiders audit us, or is it when we go out on an external audit and we have follow-up?
So it could be either.
Great.
Right. So if you're doing an internal audit and you're logging your internal observations, that can kick off your responses to those. If somebody else is auditing you and they submit the audit findings to you, you could log that as well.
Great.
And whether you do that as a solution package or in our form or you do it in your audit module, that's debatable, right? That's really a decision you need to make during the implementation. Okay. So our entire CAPA system really focuses or aligns with the quality events and the concept of having these quality events as feeders into your CAPA system. So I really like this graphic. I think Ken initially came up with it. You're not using it anymore, right? I still...
No, we're in version 2.
You're in version 2? Okay, I'm still stuck with version 1. I like it. I think it really brings across how our quality management system around QEM is set up in MasterControl. So you have your quality events, all of these forms that we just went through a little bit at a very high level. Right? They come into this bucket and this funnel, and you can look at them really as containment. Right? So just having the concept of a deviation, really what you're doing is containing that situation. Something happened on the manufacturing floor, and you have an established process, and you have SOPs that outlines how you handle that. But in terms of one of the things we'll get a lot more into that is what we're trying to do in our solution package and out-of-box offerings is we're trying to have you stay at containment within handling the quality event through a risk assessment and drive to completion, rather than taking every event that comes in into CAPA. So it really stages it. You have your quality event stage. You have this decision point, and okay, do we escalate this to CAPA? Within CAPA, we have this pre-CAPA phase. We call it the issue review stage. That's in itself a containment review, and then another decision and risk assessment on whether you take it to CAPA. And again, you're trying, so that's what we would advocate, you're trying to get to event closure without going to CAPA. So we'll get into some of the reasons why that is. So why would you track and trend? How many in the room are actually doing tracking and trending? And how do you do it? Somebody. What's that?
Poorly.
Poorly? Is it easy? It's not. And everything we're showing here, nothing is a silver bullet, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to create some tools to help you with it. So why track and trend? So at a high level, of course, CAPA issues are often cited, 483s as well as warning letters. I don't really have any numbers. It's not the majority or anything like that, but it's a good chunk of them that are in that space. I think supplier observations probably beats that. And within that, if you kind of look at the content of the 43s and the observations and the warning letters, it's really either you have a quality event and you're not even investigating and you're not even really documenting that you're looking at it in terms of should we do more, should we do root cause. You may have insufficient investigations in there, so you have identified an issue that is a significant issue with a high risk. And you say you're investigating it, but the investigation is lacking the scientific basis, doesn't go deep enough, or maybe you failed to identify root cause. Comment? It just looked like you were ready to jump in. So really, why would you track and trend? It's everything around CAPA. So CAPA, just to outline that again, the main components or phases of CAPA is containment. So that's really the sweeping the floor, right? You have your quality exception occurring. You may have a process for it, as you may have or should have for deviations and non-conformances and customer complaint handling and things like that. Getting into the investigation, determining the root cause is a very important part of the CAPA process. And that's also one that FDA looks at very closely, if there is an investigation. Or an audit rather. Root cause, through corrective action, you're trying to eliminate the root cause. There could be multiple root causes. And then you would follow that by an effectiveness check. So does the issue reoccur after everything is said and done? Okay, so let's just take a simple scenario. So this is one of the pitfalls, and it's a scenario that you may be familiar with by now, but a lot of companies out there fall into the trap of trying to put everything to CAPA because nobody steps in and says, oh, it's not significant enough to take it to CAPA. So really what you have your starting point, which is your quality event. Let's assume it's a deviation. You'll want to investigate that. That would be your CAPA methodology, get to a root cause, and perform corrective action. So what happens a lot is you have a single deviation. You're doing some level of investigation on it. And you find that, well, it was operator error. Now, if you've actually escalated this to CAPA, there's not a whole lot of places to go with this kind of information, with this data. You have a single event, and you found that the operator didn't follow procedure by some measure. So what happens a lot, probably a lot of people have seen this in the field, is the corrective action is retraining, which it's really not. It's a containment action. You have a single occurrence of an issue. You found that somebody wasn't following procedure, operator error, and the solution is you retrain them so the next time around on that specific procedure, they won't make the same mistake again, and others potentially. So you're really not at the CAPA level. So another way to look at it, which is actually interesting, is to look at it top down. So what would happen? You're looking for root causes to eliminate. So let's just assume one. You have insufficient training. So your training program is somehow deficient. Maybe you're not training on all of your documents. Maybe you're not doing a proficiency check through an exam. Right? You just get, did you read this procedure? Yes, no. I've never seen that. So whatever it may be, there's some training deficiency. So what could be the consequence from that? This is your root cause. We're just trying to build, like, what are the symptoms? Are your operators going to make mistakes? Are you going to know it? Maybe. So you probably have some QC checks in your system. I know in laboratory environments, every time you have data transcription, somebody does a 100% review. If you're doing calculations, manual calculations that are performed by automated systems, you would probably have a 100% check against the calculations. So you'd start seeing these things, but you don't really have metrics because you're not capturing the event. Right? So maybe the lab personnel would be able to tell you, yeah, we have a lot of QC check failures. So hopefully you'd find most of them that way, but if not, then you'll start seeing actual quality events. So you'll start seeing deviations, OOS out of specifications, non-conforming product. If you don't catch everything, not everything is detectable by a test, you'll start having field failures, and if you get complaints, then you'll find out about it. Or worse, if you have adverse events or MDR events, so medical device failures, that may stem from a product issue. So that looks pretty straightforward. Now let's say you have additional root causes out there. So let's say you have a single supplier that has insufficient raw material testing. So you start adding some things. You have maybe raw material release failures. So again, NCMRs and OOSs. But the further to the right you come here, you start seeing the same events, and you start layering them. So you have a hopefully small number of root cause issues on the left. You probably have a lot of these observations, and hopefully fewer to the right. The further left you are, the closer it is to the root cause. If you actually focused on this, you would maybe get here pretty quickly. But you have less data here, more data there, but you don't really know how significant that data is. So you're starting to look at this from a systemic level, and it starts looking like noise, just data, right? You just have these, and how efficient are you going to be at just looking at your complaints and being able to document the cause? Okay, so looping back into the CAPA process. So the justification, you'll need a justification for not taking an issue to CAPA. In some cases, you won't be able to. But usually you would do that on risk-based, with a risk-based approach. So you do your frequency, your impact, and hopefully based on that, you'll be able to say in 80% of the cases, 70% of the cases, we'll close it out with just containment action, and we won't take it to CAPA. In the rest of those events, you actually do take it to CAPA, and this is where hopefully your CAPA team will start looking at this from a more systemic level. So data, how often does this occur? Do we see trends? Does it increase? How significant is it? If you had one operator error over here, that's a low frequency, but if you have 50 or so, go ahead.
Do you have anything in between, like an action item? Does it just get track the trend and then CAPA? So
there is a term action item. I don't know if you refer to the term that we use in our forms out of box. But so what does happen, right, is that you basically put a check mark in here. It's low frequency, low risk, or lowish risk, or whatever it comes out with. And you have a data point in here that you can query later, right? You may say here, or especially here, we have it right in the form, track and trend, right? Close it, it's not significant. Oh, let's keep an eye on it. Let's track and trend it. Or let's take it to CAPA right away. So, and that's what this entire session is about, right? The tools for them watching that.
But there's nothing in between. It's just track the trend or CAPA.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so in the issue review, just to explain that a little bit, is you're doing your reassessment, right? So these guys may know that, well, we have 50 of these kinds of failures, not just one. The person over here didn't necessarily know that. They don't have visibility. So they would possibly reassess the risk and then put that designation on, let's track and trend it, right? You're still doing containment. Containment may be in addition to what happened here. But you're just not ready to CAPA. But the track and trend will then still get it to CAPA if it's wanted. Does that make sense?
Forgive me, is your question that you have a quality event, is there some way to correct it?
Yeah, you may not be serious enough to go through
the... It's not called a corrective action per se.
Correct.
It's something... You want to answer
Isolated
that would be a correction.
A correction. Okay, so this is terminology. So
Yeah.
like what you said, something that was one operator didn't understand the procedure, they made a mistake, isolated event. You're still going to correct that. You're not going to ignore it.
Yeah, so correction, to me, containment correction is
It's the same. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So I think that's what
Terminology is
you're asking.
yes.
There is a form for that.
So it would be embedded. For us, it's usually embedded. So we might have something like immediate action or correction. We won't call it corrective action. To us, that's a CAPA.
So we call it action item.
Yeah, so action item, have you seen our forms? Because they have a very specific meaning for our forms. Well, it's a generic meaning. But it's basically, they occur in different phases of our process where you can simply basically decompose your tasks. And we just call it action item. It could be anything. So you could make it a correction.
It's just a two-step. You
sign
it.
Yes. Action items, two steps.
It's approved. We're not approved.
Yes. Yep. And it's open and yes.
I think what we're looking for is the term remedial action. So someone made a mistake, you remediate it, you fix it. You don't necessarily do a correction and help. We have to then count all our remedial actions and track and trend them to see if they then jump us into corrective action.
Okay. Okay.
So that yellow to the light orange color, it's kind of like staging. Think of it as staging. The actions you have primarily in the yellow are more immediate. It's more of a department level. It could be handled at the department level. Typically when it stages and goes to the light orange, a different group of people are getting their eyes on it. Somebody that looks at it with a little more wisdom and experience from a quality perspective. But you've essentially got 4 actions available to you in that light orange color that you're looking at, you're considering. One is actually no action. You may be better off to just watch. Okay, sometimes you take remedial actions get you in trouble. You don't have enough data yet. So you've got no action, you've got containment or a correction or a remedial action, all means the same thing, then a corrective action and preventive action. And so you're going through a series of questions as you work down through those questions that will put you in the right place. And it gets you to the right place nearly every time. And so that's what that light orange color is doing. Again, you've got a risk gateway, so you can consider that based on, do you want to send it on in for a corrective action? That would require an investigation. And again, that's even a confusing piece for a lot of people in CAPA. 80% of the time, they should just have a corrective action. They don't need the PUT. You know, PUT is not always necessary. It may be more than you need. And so there's these staging events that go through the process so you can get to the right place as fast as possible.
So you may have guessed Ken Peterson. He's a MasterControl employee. He's actually designed our CAPA workshops and some others, right? So he's really our CAPA guru, and he's behind a lot of these concepts that I'm showing as far as CAPA. Okay. So tracking and trending, how do you do it then? So I had a lot of people raise their hands. I'd still like to get more information from you guys. How do you go about it? So first of all, how many people here actually use our forms, our process-based forms? Okay, so that's a smaller fraction than the total. And out of those, how do you do tracking and trending? You don't?
Dashboard analytics.
Analytics? Okay. So you basically have a manual process where if you have an issue review, and you say you're going to track and trend it, then it's basically up to the quality manager to kind of, at the end of every month or every quarter, query the CAPA system. In theory. There's away from FDA here, right? Which say. Right, so that's difficulty, right? So the way you would go about it in MasterControl, in terms of just the manual route, you'd really have to basically retrieve your issues from CAPA. Which ones are marked for track and trend? When you cut it off after 6 months, right? So you can have a report for that. But then you still have to look at all your other your quality channels essentially and see, okay, how are they trending? And so a typical report in MasterControl will be based on, okay, let me look at all the customer complaints. All right, I see a trend, maybe not, but this is all of your customer complaints. All right. So if you want to be efficient at actually keeping an eye on specific issues, like you had specific issues that you said you were going to track and trend, you really have to dig a lot deeper, and it gets pretty difficult to do that.
That's your question. To get the statistics like that, is that a specific module you have to have in MasterControl?
No, that's our analytics model. So these are just out-of-box reports.
So the review would be set out in set out a.
No,
so somebody's going to have to go in there and.
So the manual. So this is just reporting, right? So you go in here. You'll remember at the end of the month to check all the your favorite reports, right?
Or schedule.
Yeah. Oh.
I noticed in your months that don't run sequentially, I've been having the same problem. So my shots.
I've seen it work correctly. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, basically what it is if I go into the report itself, open up the graphics, just resave the graphics, it displays correctly. But when I close it out and come back in, it displays incorrectly.
Really? You see that? Okay. That's something that we'll have to troubleshoot. So I didn't see that when I pulled this out of the system. I was probably in a hurry when I was doing it. I've seen it work correctly, though, whether in the correct order and everything. So reporting. So event cards, anybody familiar with that term? Vishal is, Hall is. So basically one of the difficulties when you're reporting, also when you're searching, really what you want to do is, as you're looking at one issue, you want to see all your quality events. You don't want to see just the complaints and just the deviations. But your deviations have a different set of fields than your NCMRs, than your complaints, and so on. So if you're searching based on your form fields, you'll have to do complex and crazy and wacky and or statements, right? If product, it might not even match, right? Depending on who developed your forms, we call it product number, product ID, product, right? So it's very difficult to get it to match if you're actually trying to basically issue a single search and bring all your results back that bring you a bunch of things. So one of the answers there is event cards. And it's something that we created, I believe, version 10.0. So the event card is basically a construct that gives you a fixed set of fields in the event card that every form in the system will have. And when you're designing a process, or if you're taking a MasterControl solution package, every one of these fields can be mapped into a field up here. And the result of that is that you can now query or report on your event cards and say, give me all my events for a specific product line or product number with a risk score greater than 8. And maybe you're looking for specific keywords in the description fields. And now you do basically a single search with 3-4 parameters, and you will get report that pulls all of these in. This is the only way you'll ever see a report in MasterControl where you have CAPAs and change controls and customer complaints in a single report. It's through event cards. And you don't have to use our solution packages to get an event card. It's a process feature. And all you have to do to get those activated is basically map fields from your form to a fixed set of event card fields. Make sense? And then I'll skip through that real quick. We're kind of running behind on time. But basically for your form, the event card becomes basically a view for your form record. So you have your info card, right, which every record in MasterControl have, the actual form, and your event card. And you can kind of flip back and forth between them.
I have a question. So if I set up an event card right now, is it going to loop my previous data as well, or it's just going to start from that point on?
No, it actually goes back real time. And so you could actually change your mapping, and it'll take effect retrospectively. You can flip it, actually. And it might be a little bit more work than it's worth, but if you find you didn't map the correct things for a specific query, you could actually change it, run your query, and change it back. It's that real time. Yes?
When they're setting up the form initially and they're doing all the mapping for the reporting, are they setting up this event card at the same time?
They can.
Fields so I'd have to double check and see if they actually mapped it when they're doing it. When they initially
Yeah, so if you have an existing project, it depends. Right? So if it's a solution package,
right.
Then it'll have something mapped. If you've tailored a solution package, the mapping should still be there.
Yeah, they updated the mappings after they modified the
That's
form.
fine.
So
You can do it anytime.
Okay.
Okay, scheduled reports, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, rather than manually creating or looking at your reports at the end of the month, you can basically set up a scheduled report in MasterControl, and it sends all the reports you want to you, which could be a lot. So there's not much beef there, so I won't get into a lot of detail. Distribution through email, it can be to yourself as well as other people. It doesn't just have to be you. And you get a choice of PDF or Excel format for your
You
data.
get the graphics with that?
So if you have a report that has a chart, that'll come through the PDF. You lose the interactivity, right?
Hmm?
You lose the interactivity with the chart. Like if you have a drill down chart, you'd have to go back to the original report. Is that another question?
As part of that event card and being able to auto report distribution, does it have like an alert limit? For instance, if we're setting up management, they don't want to see necessarily all the reports. They only want to see when one of them goes greater than some type of pre-established conversion.
Enter MasterControl rules. That's the next tool. It builds on a report, right? And so now, what's different to a scheduled report is that you're building in thresholds. And so if you have a report that generates aggregate data, like 8 customer complaints, and you could even have a report that does like a trailing 3 months or 8 weeks, whatever time frame you want to set. That would show up here. Here's just like complaint type. You set your threshold. You set up, do you want it in Excel? Do you want it as a PDF file? You can even set your email subject and contents, and then your recipients, which could be a row or more, one row. Okay.
This is right in the process module?
This is actually portal functionality, so you can do this for any reporting system. Yeah, actually, it's under Start Task, where you start your document tasks, and it's also start form tasks as a scheduled form tasks tab. It's an add-on.
It's an add-on to the
Yeah.
No, I missed that. What was an add-on?
The rules part. So reporting is standard. The scheduled report is standard. The rule is an add-on. Okay. So we're very close to our endpoint, and we started a little bit late, so I'm kind of scrambling to get through the last part, which is really what was supposed to be the focus. So what's missing in all of these? Anybody? So no traceability. Right? So you've marked your CAPA up as, oh, this requires tracking and trending, but if an auditor comes in and they want to see it, you may not have anything to show unless you have some other process of recording that. So you could say, well, I'm getting an email every month with a bunch of reports, but you can't show that you did, you can't show what you did with it or why you didn't take action or anything like that. Oops. Okay, so that's really where the analyzer agents shine. And we introduced them with version 10.0. We improved them with version 11.0, which you don't have yet. But we basically made them work with the form, so you can now actually link an agent to the form, make it part of the record, create a set of user rights that safeguards that data, so that when you pull up that CAPA or that issue review 6 months later, you will see the agent right there. You can click through it and you can see what happened with it. So it extends basically the traceability and the documentation for everything you're doing. So at a high level, so what's an analyzer agent? It's an automated piece of software that is monitoring all the quality events coming in. And basically what you do is you set up criteria, a MasterControl search, right? And if you have a certain number, and you set that up with a threshold, if you have a certain number of matches, you get an email notification, hey, go to your agent and check out the matches that you have. So in terms of how you set it up, analyze name, description, your access rights, so you can actually safeguard and say, this is mine, nobody touch it. You set up who's notified and when, and that's kind of similar to rules and scheduled reports. The criteria is really just a MasterControl search. And then there's a little bit of finer detail that we'll get into, and I'll skip some of the. So here's your user rights, your recipient for the email, your notification threshold. You can expire it, and it won't go away. It'll just start. It'll go inactive, so it won't start firing emails. And a generic description. So the 5 Ws that describes what the quality issue is that you're monitoring. So what happens when you get that notification email? You're supposed to come in here, and that's where the automation ends, right? The system can't tell you which ones are your significant issue or whether they all relate to the issue you're looking for. But it comes in here, and you basically are supposed to do a review process for the matches. So this is where you start going through, and you say, okay, yes, this relates to the issue I'm monitoring. Or no, it does not. And if you say yes, it moves down here and then confirmed match. Now, searches are powerful, but you won't ever be able to configure a search that really just brings in the issues that you're interested in. Or maybe even all of them. You may come across additional ones. And you can still bring them in here just by basically searching to MasterControl, locating the issue, and bringing it in. So does that make sense? You have a stream of matches for your criteria. Then you disposition them and you start collecting them. And if you don't have enough for CAPA, you save it and you go away and let it re-alert you when there's additional matches, which would happen in real time. Yes?
This is so cool. Just real quick. I mean, so you're picking and choosing which ones you want to continue to review, letting go of the others. But, you know, Oliver doesn't have time. But at some point you ought to ask somebody at MasterControl, those tabs up on the top, split, merge, launch CAPA. You get some in, you say, well, I've got some of these type and some of these type. I want to now take this and split it off. So I look at this and look at this. These aren't for CAPA yet, these are. You can just go through this and analyze this and really make some great decisions as you go into this data. The other thing is you can launch from event card to event card to event card, fast review. You can look at form to form to forms, and look at complaint form or deviation forms. And you just hit them, and they go like this, and go backwards and forwards. So go bug Oliver. Get him to tell you a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So tomorrow, Thursday, we have a QEM show and tell, and we can dig more into that if anybody wants to. But yeah, there's more functionality to it. Like Ken said, you can merge and split these. Like anything that you're monitoring, you may find, oh, it's really two different solutions, two different issues I'm tracking here, so we split it. Or you may have 5 events, event analyzers set up, that are actually pertaining to the same thing, merging. Very important, and actually in version 11 it's a new feature. You can actually launch directly from that agent to any process in the system. So you could get very formal about it, right? You do a monthly review and you have a form for it, or call it an investigation. Just launch an investigation, and it becomes associated with the agent on this tab. So this starts collecting everything you've launched.
Those agents then attached to the
So there's a cross-reference between the forms and the
the
agent.
reference right from the CAPA decision.
Yep.
And that's just on the line?
So before 11, you were able to launch just CAPA.
Oh,
In 11, you can configure it, and you can configure data passing, and that's how you actually enable a process to appear here. So this is what we can do on a form now, and actually you can do on a form even if you custom develop them in-house or otherwise. You basically get this is a drop-in element, which is a new concept and process. Not that complicated to explain, but basically what you get, you don't have to actually, as a programmer, you don't have to put all these elements in. You just say, I want an analyzer agent link here, and it's on a read-only page, and it's going to start acting a certain way, giving you the appropriate icon and so on. So that you can either search for and link in an existing agent, or you create one on the spot. And this is a form that in version 11 is going to be standard in our solution packages. So basically when you say like close track and trend, we opted not to make this mandatory. You could make it mandatory. Right? If you think the analyzer agent is the best thing since sliced bread, just make a small change to this form and make that field required. And now if you select this, you have to go to the agent route. Okay, we already talked about main benefits, traceability. Also structuring, this is a really important one, really structuring your effort. If you just have a bunch of issue reviews hanging out there and you're trying to get a grasp on things, your agent will tell you this is the issue that you're monitoring, right? And you'll look at it in that light rather than trying to look at all your complaints and all your deviations and try to make sense of them. I'm saying partial automation because it does a really nice job of alerting you, but then you have to do the grunt work of comparing the issues still. Okay, we're 5 minutes over. I'm just going to take a half minute just to go through this. So there were questions, what is in version 11, what is not. So these are what is new in version 11, meaning if you don't have version 11, you won't have these components. So agent expiration. The filter was actually a saved search before. Now it just exists in the agent. It's just a simplification. The user rights really got tightened in version 11 to the point where you can treat it as yours and only yours in terms of assigning, okay, I let Ken view it, but he can't mess with it, kind of thing. Assigning a numbering series to the agent rather than manually assigning it. And this form snippet that you can drop in very easily. So what sums it up? Oh, and this is an important, or could be an important one. There is a license for this, but it's been free ever since we started this. But if you find that you don't find event items or event mappings in your system, it's probably because you don't have a license. And all it takes is asking for it. We're supposed to put it out there every time we upgrade somebody or install it, but just check. Right? If it's not there, then that's why you can get it. All right, sorry for running over. I tried my best to catch up. Thanks.
thank you.